How about I just go first so we end on a high note with your number one?
Okay. Okay, if that's what you want to do, like, I'm complaining. Yeah,
Um,
sure.
my
Go
number
for it.
five, and it's This Is Us.
Yeah, I knew this was gonna be on your list, you little minx.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. It's a zoink for me, but I am also currently watching This Is Us. I think I'm like a season ahead of you because I think you watch it when it's on Netflix, right? Yeah,
Yeah.
because I can never tell you about anything that happens. I'm always like,
Like every episode just makes you cry. I heard somebody talk about once and say that they set a pace at the first episode of like their emotional knowledge and emotional capacity, and they keep it up for going on 4 seasons now.
it's just kind of like filled with like, oh, that's relatable moments between like family. I guess they're trying to take like a realistic look at what family is.
Well, okay, it's about a family, Rebecca and Jack, and the show opens with them giving birth to triplets, but one of them dies in childbirth, and so they adopt a black child that was left on the steps of a firehouse. You see 3 timelines. You see the timeline when they were young children growing up. You see the timeline when they were young adults growing into maturity, and you see the timeline when they're all adults.
And sometimes the show adds an extra layer where you see like the parents before they even had the kids. So like occasionally you'll get like a fourth layer into that cheesy dip.
And sometimes they like jump way forward into the future or something. Like, it's really interesting. I want to see like the editing and all this stuff behind, because how do you make such an emotional impact each episode? Like, do you have like some kind of magic elixir that you can like pour over the media and just make it magical? Like, I don't even know.
I think this show is a masterclass in like demographic targeting and like knowing its audience. There's something in this show for everybody. I'm not gonna spoil Jack's story. I almost just did, but I won't. Someone knew like we gotta keep Jack in the show, okay? 40-year-old women love Jack, and then keep Jack in the show. That's one thing. It's really hard to talk about this show without just saying, remember when that thing made me cry? Or remember when that thing like was like really heartwarming? I just have to like not say what it was.
I'm gonna now talk about my favorite episodes and try not to spoil everything. The big day was one where I think it was during the day that they were giving birth to the children. It was from the doctor's perspective. That doctor guy tore the house down. I want to see how much money they gave him for like the 3 episodes that he's in, because he gives some of the best acting.
He tore the house down. What's the actor's name again?
I have no idea. He's just some old guy. Like, I've never seen him in anything else. And I really liked the one where Randall and a man very close to him go back to the guy's like hometown or something, and it's like the last, kind of thing, and you're like, oh my gosh. And then like that moment when I'm gonna start crying, but anyway.
You try to tiptoe around the spoilers.
That was another guy. That was another actor. The guy that played the guy that was very close to Randall.
Yeah, the guy that was very close to Randall. Yeah, very good.
He was a great actor.
I agree. For the most part, the cast of This Is Us is really solid. My number 5, this is like a complete switch in tones. My number 5 is Buffy the Vampire Slayer. Yeah.
I've never seen an episode of Buffy the Vampire Slayer.
Oh, I know you haven't. I quit. I've tried to get everyone I know to watch this show. And I know I lose people because I do the first season, it's okay, but it gets better after that. And then they're like, well, why don't I just watch the show that's really good? And I'm like, okay, you know what? Screw you. And then I actually successfully got someone to watch the first episode, and they're like, it's too 90s for me. And I was like, please, just like give it a chance. You don't understand how good it gets. This is probably, don't get me wrong, I love my teen shows, okay? I'm the guy who watched 13 Reasons Why season 4, all of it, without skipping a scene. And it was hard, but I did it. Okay, I'm that guy. I watched Riverdale a couple episodes after that baby floated above a piece of fire or something like that. I watched past that scene. Okay? Like, I am hardcore with my teen shows. Also, shout out to Grand Army. That was a good show. Another good teen show that I feel like not enough people are talking about.
I haven't even heard of that.
Oh, I know. No one has. And it was really good. It was like if Riverdale was like way better and actually cast people that looked like they were teenagers. Take away the vampire demon slayer part of the show, and it's actually like the most compelling teen drama I've ever seen. It's a brainchild of Joss Whedon. So like, you know, I like Joss Whedon.
I've watched another TV series by Joss Whedon, partially because it's just a lot shorter.
Yeah, that will end it before its time.
I want to hear you give like a synopsis. Like, what is this show about?
Okay, so essentially, they took the trope of like the blonde girl in horror movies that like dies all the time, and essentially now she is the chosen. It's such a silly premise, but for some reason you get like really wrapped up into the lore. Essentially, every generation, one vampire slayer is chosen, and her job is to like slay vampires. And she goes to school on something. She's in high school, and she goes to school on something called the Hellmouth, which is essentially like the cesspit of demon and vampire activity. So like all of these things, it sounds stupid, but it's like get past the fact that it's a really stupid premise and you're like, actually this works. And essentially she has a watcher who's kind of like the guardian of the slayer. Like they make sure the slayer's, you know, all good, and they give them the weapons and they train them. And his name is Giles, and he's like the high school librarian. He poses as a librarian so he could be your watcher. And then we have her two friends, Willow and Xander. And that's essentially the core cast right there. And then we have like other bits and pieces that sprinkle in and out of the show.
Wait, so let me get this straight. The people's names in the show are Buffy, Xander, Giles, and what was the other person's name?
Willow. Yeah, and then of course you have Cordelia, but she and then of course you have Angel. There's Angel. There's Spike. Normal names like Anya. There's Anya. There's Tara. But yeah,
Anya's the most normal name in this.
Well, hush. She used to be a demon. Okay, give her a break. My favorite episodes from it. I wrote down some of my favorite episodes here. Hush is one of the most brilliant episodes of a show I've ever seen. But these things are scary. Like they're these smiling, bald, white guys in like suits that float, and essentially they steal the voices of everyone in the town. So they can't scream, and they need to harvest 7 hearts. So they kill people for their hearts, and no one can hear them because they can't scream. And no one in the town can talk. So we have like an episode with 0 dialogue. Buffy and like they call them her like group of friends that slay demons. They call them the Scooby Gang. They have to like figure out how to stop these guys without talking to each other. So they're like using projectors and stuff, and like they're trying to like motion to each other like how to kill them. So like Buffy's like this, like do we stab them? And everyone's like, and she's like, no, with a knife. like it's like the body. The body is like probably I don't cry often with media, and it's very funny that Buffy the Vampire Slayer made me cry. But the body, I think it's from season 5, episode 16. I won't give too much away. It's just like an emotional punch to the face, and there's like almost no supernatural anything in it. It's just people dealing with this like very real thing that just happened to all of them. I feel like I talked for like 8 years about that show. Del Secchi. Okay, no. All right, number one. Should I do the song?
Yes, do the song. That's all I'm waiting for.
Number one. Number one. Ooh. Do your shoulders like this? Ooh. Do your shoulders like this? Ooh. Do your shoulders like that?
Ooh.
Ooh.
Do your shoulders like that? Ooh. Okay. My number one. Kind of spoiled it for you. It's Daredevil.
Yeah, I knew you spoiled it, you little smuck. I knew it. I walked in. I said I was going to the bathroom. We took a break. I walk in and I hear Watch Mojo, and I hear like Daredevil, and I'm like, "Is your number one Daredevil?" And he's like, "No, let's do the thing."
Daredevil, adrenaline-filled awesomeness with great acting, great action, great directing, great everything, great mood, great. I don't even know what else to say about this show except go watch it. I don't know what it is, but something that's always interests me is to have like these characters with like sense disabilities, like blindness or stuff like that, like Toph, Avatar, and like Daredevil in this show.
Yeah.
And to see them have that disability, but then have this built-in of other senses. That's always really interests me. That's what's always interests me about Daredevil. And they do it in such a cool way where it's almost like where he can still see and stuff, but it just puts him as that underdog, and then people like are like, oh, he's blind, and like try and beat him up or stuff, but he just like kicks all of their asses in the most intense and awesome way possible. Obviously, the hallway fight in the second one is awesome. But then, okay, not even Daredevil. Daredevil's an amazing character, one of the best characters, the Batman of Marvel. And then they bring in these other characters who are just as interesting, like Kingpin. Kingpin in this. When he...
Keep kicking! Yeah, that's like the instant scene that comes into my mind because it was so screwed up when he just... I guess I can't say what he does because it's a spoiler. But he does something nice to his dad, that's for sure.
Well, that episode is a really good episode where it's just him. The episode where it's just about Karen, even, who's also played by a great actress, in season 3, when they go into her backstory.
That was really good, actually, yeah.
And you're like, I've lived with this person for 3 seasons, and now you're telling me this?
They kind of hint that there's darkness in her past. But then, like, in season 3, they're like, oh, by the way. You're just, what?
By the way. You're like, every time that I've felt bad for this character, like, every time that I've, like, been annoyed with this character, I want to take it back. When they introduce Punisher, oh my gosh. When they have that fight scene, oh my
Wait, the one where he's all, like, tied up?
No, the one where he's in the...
Or is it the one where it's Daredevil and him going toe-to-toe on the roof?
One where he's in the prison.
Oh! Oh, that was so good. I also like how when the dude, like, lands on him because there's, like, blood everywhere, it, like, creates, like, the Punisher skull and, like, blood on his thing. If you look close, that was cool.
Yeah. This is so dark, so bloody, so twisted. You should never show this to your children until they're, like...
Funny is, I say that, but, like, they still don't say the F word in this show. There's still no nudity in this show. What's funny, too, is it's like, this character's, like, rooted in Catholicism. Oh, someone's head gets taken off of the car door.
I really like the faith part of it, too. I love the scenes with him and the priest and stuff like that. It is everything that I wanted. If this was a movie, it'd probably be in, like, my top 5 favorite Marvel movies.
I think one of the cool things to me about this show was, like, none of the characters are one thing, but I think this show is on par with, which is another one that if we did a top 10 would definitely be in my list. Mm-hmm. Jessica Jones, season 1, but I loved season 1 of Jessica Jones. Season 2,
I didn't even finish it.
Season 3 better. Season 2, but season 1, mwah. Yeah, I'm a huge nerd, so I watched like everything all the way through. I friggin' watched Iron Fist season 2.
I don't know why you did that to yourself.
Because I was like, I have to. And what's funny is the show recognizes kind of how bad it is, and they just are like, oh, Iron Fist doesn't. He give it to friggin' Colleen because she's better. Just like, I know that's a spoiler, but if you're watching past season 1, then either you're like me or you're sick. And then at the end, they pull some bullshit where they skip like a year later, and then Iron Fist has 2 Iron Fists, and they don't show how he gets it, and he like fires 2 guns, and like the guns have Iron Fist bullets, and you're like, wait, what? How did this happen? That looks way more interesting than this whole entire season. But Daredevil's, pretty much every season, 1, 2, and 3, consistently pretty good. And Jessica Jones season 1 are, I think, my favorites of the entire Marvel Netflix catalog. My number 1, House, MD. You have to say MD, otherwise people just think you're talking about a house. The Doctor Show, my personal favorite Doctor Show. Hugh Laurie is House. Perfect casting.
I think I've seen an episode.
If you haven't seen this show, it's a longer venture. It's like 8 seasons, in hour-long episodes. So you're on it for a bit of a trek. But this show has one of the best on-screen friendships I've ever seen in my life. That being House and Wilson, who are obviously like apparently the creators of the show kind of took inspiration from like Sherlock Holmes. So like they nod to that character by saying his name's Gregory House. Mm-hmm. And then Wilson, James Wilson, Watson. So like that's why they did that. Fun fact, House is just this like misanthrope who doesn't actually care about people that much. He just likes the puzzle. So like there's episodes where like a patient will die and like his team is like, we screwed up. He's like, what are you doing? And they're like, he's dead. And he's like, so don't you want to know what killed him? And like starts like doing an autopsy. I'm like, it's so good. And it's sometimes it's like incredibly emotionally impactful. I have cried a few times throughout this show. And again, I don't cry. I always say like I don't cry that often. But like I feel like I do now, because anytime I say that, I say, but I cried here. Some of my favorite episodes being there's Broken, which is there's a 2-parter set inside of a mental ward. As essentially House is like an addict. He's addicted to Vicodin because he had like a clot in his leg and did a risky surgery to try and save his leg, and it didn't work out, and now he walks with a cane. And for the pain, he takes Vicodin, but he becomes an addict, so he's essentially addicted to Vicodin, and it all like culminates when the addiction takes over, and essentially there's an episode where he just kind of loses his mind. So at the beginning of one of the seasons, he's in this mental hospital, and it's literally just kind of about the human spirit and this like complete misanthropic character who starts by just wanting to like break the system of this mental facility. Like he starts like, because he's smart, he's like incredibly smart, so he starts like playing mind games like the patients and the doctors in this facility, and then eventually he just decides to better himself, and it's a really good episode. And then I think the last one I'll talk about is 3 Stories, which is an episode where he is talking to like a group of medical students.
Yeah.
And he's telling them 3 stories of like 3 different people who he has treated. Mm-hmm. And I won't give any more away to that one because the twist in that one is freaking fantastic. This show means so much to me. I think it's so expertly written. The acting is brilliant. Can't praise it enough.
Wow.
So yeah, if you want like a kind of a medical drama type thing, if that thing interests you, House. My ever loving life is always defending Buffy the Vampire Slayer. So
I feel like the most important show that I have on my list is This Is Us. Because that, if you want to be taught life lessons while like crying your eyes out, watch This Is Us. And if you want like some of the best action on TV, some of the most interesting, deep characters on TV, watch Daredevil. Go check us out on Instagram. Go check us out on the Facebook
of Babbling
with the boys.
My name is Spence the Chef.
I'm Karst Chappé. Stay spicy.
Oh yes, stay spicy. Spicy. No one I know watches any of these shows, and I feel so alone. Someone please watch these shows.